The amazing story has arrived, and the story name is What If Naruto and Cindrella in Frozen World. So let's start the series. The blizzard came without warning. One moment, Arendelle's northern mountain pass lay silent under moonlight, snowdrifts glowing blue-white in the darkness. The next, the wind ripped through the gorge like a living thing, screaming between rock walls and tearing ice crystals from the ground so violently they drew blood where they struck exposed skin. Naruto Uzumaki pressed his back against a boulder and pulled his torn cloak tighter. Stupid. Stupid. He chased the scout team too far north, convinced they'd taken the southern route toward the border. Now his chakra reserves hovered near empty, Kurama's presence a dull warmth in his chest but utterly silent. The old fox hadn't spoken in 3 days, not since Naruto had made the decision to pursue instead of retreat. You're going to get yourself killed, brat. Maybe. But Minato was out here somewhere. His father had been missing for 2 weeks, last seen tracking a rogue shinobi cell through these very mountains. The intelligence suggested they'd crossed into this strange kingdom, Arendelle, the locals called it, and Naruto hadn't hesitated. Sasuke had called it reckless. Sakura had called it stupid. Kakashi-sensei had simply looked at him with that single visible eye and said nothing, which was somehow worse. The wind shifted. Naruto's head snapped up. Footsteps. Light, careful, but unmistakable against the compressed snow. 3, maybe 4 people, moving in formation. Not shinobi, he'd have sensed their chakra, but trained enough to navigate a blizzard. He pushed off the boulder and moved. The storm swallowed sound, but his years of combat training kept him oriented. Rock wall to his left, drop off to his right. The footsteps came from ahead, where the pass widened into a plateau. He dropped into a crouch and crept forward, ignoring the way the cold bit through his sandals. Then he saw them. 3 men in heavy fur cloaks, carrying lanterns that cast weak pools of light against the darkness. Armed, swords at their hips, crossbows slung across backs. Not soldiers, exactly. Their bearing was wrong, too casual. Mercenaries, maybe? Or bandits using the storm for cover. They were dragging something between them. Naruto's eyes adjusted, and his stomach went cold. A woman. Young, maybe his age. Dressed in something that might have been elegant once, deep green velvet, now torn and stained with snow. Her hair spilled across her face, dark against the white, and she wasn't struggling. Unconscious, or close to it. Told you we should have waited. One of the men growled, his voice barely audible over the wind. She's too weak to make the crossing. The payment didn't include waiting. We deliver her by morning, or we don't get paid at all. That from the leader, a broad-shouldered man with a scar across his jaw. Besides, her sister will pay twice that once she realizes we have leverage. Sister. Leverage. Naruto's jaw tightened. This wasn't his mission. His mission was finding Minato. Getting involved with local politics, with kidnappings and mercenaries, would only slow him down. Kakashi's voice echoed in his head, a shinobi's first duty is to the mission. Emotions cloud judgment. But the woman's hand had slipped from her captor's grip and hung limp against the snow, and Naruto could see the faint blue tinge at her fingertips. She was freezing to death. Duty to the mission. The wind screamed. Naruto moved. He came in low and fast, chakra flaring just enough to close the distance before the first man could react. Palm strike to the kidney, elbow to the back of the neck, and the mercenary crumpled without a sound. The second man turned, mouth opening to shout, and Naruto's foot caught him in the chest hard enough to send him tumbling over the edge of the drop-off. His scream faded into the storm. The leader was faster. He dropped the woman's arm, she hit the snow without stirring, and drew his sword in one smooth motion. The blade caught the lantern light as he swung. Naruto ducked under it, felt the wind of its passage ruffle his hair. He came up inside the man's guard, grabbed his wrist, and twisted. The sword clattered against rock. A knee to the stomach doubled the mercenary over. Naruto's forearm pressed against his throat, driving him back against the boulder. Who hired you? Naruto's voice came out flat, cold, the tone he'd learned from Kakashi during the war, the one that made enemies hesitate. The man's eyes went wide. In the darkness, with snow crusting his hair and whisker marks stark against his cheeks, Naruto knew what he looked like. Not human. Something other. The mercenary swallowed. We were hired. By a man from the south. Wants the princess. Said her sister would pay. Princess. Naruto's gaze flicked to the woman in the snow. Up close, he could see what he'd missed before, the fine stitching on her gown, the delicate silver pins still clinging to her disheveled hair, the proud bones of her face even in unconsciousness. She's the princess? Elsa. Queen Elsa. The man's voice cracked. Arendelle's queen. The southern bastard wants to force her sister to A sharp crack split the air. Naruto's head whipped around. The woman, the queen, had moved. Not much. Just her hand, lifting from the snow, fingers spread. But ice was spreading from her palm in a glittering wave, crawling across the ground in fractal patterns that glowed faintly blue. Her breath misted white, and even unconscious, her face had gone hard with something that looked like fear. The mercenary saw it too. His eyes went huge. She's waking up. If she wakes up, if she loses control. Naruto released him and dropped to his knees beside the queen. Up close, she was younger than he'd expected. 20, maybe 21. Dark hair spread across the snow, lashes dark against cheeks that were too pale, too cold. The ice continued spreading from her hand, creeping toward them both, and her lips moved soundlessly. Can't. I've got you. Naruto didn't think. He gathered her against his chest, ignoring how cold she was, how cold she shouldn't be, because the ice came from her, was part of her somehow, and pressed his palm against her back. A careful trickle of chakra, warm and steady, the same way he'd learned to regulate body temperature during the war. Come on. Wake up. You need to wake up. Her eyes opened. They were blue. Not ordinary blue, ice blue, pale and clear as a winter sky, and for one frozen moment they focused on his face with an intensity that stopped his breath. He saw fear there, yes, but also something else. Something that looked like recognition. Then the ice exploded. It blasted outward from her body in a shockwave that sent the remaining mercenary flying into the darkness. It caught Naruto full in the chest, lifted him off his feet, slammed him against the rock wall so hard his vision went white. Ice crystals formed across his skin, crawled up his arms, tried to lock him in place. What the? He forced chakra through his limbs, shattered the ice before it could set. Dropped to the ground in a crouch, hands already forming signs for a clone. She was gone. The queen had pushed herself to her feet and was running. Stumbling, really, half falling into the storm, her torn gown tangling around her legs. The ice continued spreading behind her, a trail of glittering frost that marked her passage like breadcrumbs. Naruto ran after her. The storm swallowed them both. He caught glimpses, dark hair whipping in the wind, one hand pressed against her chest as if she were trying to hold something in, and then she rounded a corner and vanished into a crevice in the rock face. By the time Naruto reached it, she was already 20 meters inside, pressed against the wall of a natural ice cave, breathing in harsh gasps. He stopped at the entrance. She looked up. The fear in her eyes had sharpened into something else. Defiance, maybe? Or the desperate courage of something cornered. Ice was forming on the walls around her, spreading in delicate patterns that pulsed with each breath she took. Don't come closer. Her voice shook, but it carried. I'm warning you. Naruto raised his empty hands. I'm not going to hurt you. You already did. She pressed harder against the wall, as if she could melt through it. Those men, you attacked them. They were kidnapping you. They were hired to take me somewhere safe. Her laugh came out broken, wild. Somewhere I couldn't hurt anyone. And now. She looked down at her hands. Ice crystals were forming on her fingertips, spreading across her palms. Now it's worse. It's always worse when I'm afraid. Naruto lowered his hands slowly. The cave was getting colder. His breath misted white, and he could feel his chakra working harder to maintain his body temperature. But he didn't move. I'm Naruto, he said. I'm not from here. I was looking for my father when I saw them dragging you through the snow. You were unconscious. You were turning blue. Something flickered in her eyes. I was. You didn't look like someone being rescued. You looked like someone being taken. She stared at him for a long moment. The eyes stopped spreading on the walls. Her breath steadied, just slightly. I'm Elsa. She said it like the name itself was a warning. Queen of Arendelle. And you need to leave. Now. Before you lose control again? Naruto stayed where he was. I've seen worse. Trust me. You don't understand. Her voice cracked. You can't understand. This power, it doesn't listen. It doesn't care. Every time I feel anything too strongly, every time I'm scared or angry or... She stopped. Swallowed. My sister almost died because of me. When we were children. I almost killed her. Naruto thought of Sasuke, bleeding out on the battlefield. Of Sakura, screaming his name as she tried to reach them in time. Of all the people he hadn't saved, all the moments where his power hadn't been enough. I understand more than you think. Something shifted in the air between them. Elsa's eyes searched his face, looking for something, he didn't know what. Lies, maybe? Or pity. He gave her neither. just stood there in the entrance of the ice cave, snow crusting his hair, waiting. The ice on the walls began to recede. Elsa's knees buckled. Naruto crossed the space between them in 3 strides and caught her before she hit the ground. She was lighter than he expected, and colder, cold like deep winter, like the heart of a blizzard. But she was also warm where he touched her, human under the ice, and when she looked up at him again the fear had faded to exhaustion. "The men," she whispered. "The ones who?" "One's dead. The other 2 ran." Naruto adjusted his grip, supporting her weight. "They said someone hired them. Someone from the south who wanted leverage against your sister." Elsa's face went pale, paler than before, if that was possible. "Anna." Her hand clutched at his sleeve. "If they hurt her, if anyone hurts her because of me." "Hey." Naruto caught her gaze and held it. "We'll figure it out. But first you need to get warm, and you need to rest. Where's your castle? Where's home?" For a moment, something like hope flickered in those ice-blue eyes. Then it died. "I can't go home." Her voice was barely a whisper. "Don't you understand? I am the danger. Every moment I spend near people, I'm one emotion away from destroying everything. The castle, my sister." She shook her head. "I can't." Naruto looked at her for a long moment. At the queen who couldn't go home. At the power she clearly couldn't control, the fear she couldn't hide, the loneliness she wore like armor. "Okay," he said. "Then we go somewhere else. Somewhere safe. And we figure out who's after your sister before they make their move." Elsa stared at him. "You don't even know me. Why would you help me?" It was a fair question. Naruto didn't have a good answer. His mission was still out there, Minato, somewhere in these mountains, possibly walking into a trap. Getting involved with a foreign queen and her political problems was exactly the kind of distraction Kakashi had warned him about. But Elsa's hand was still gripping his sleeve, and the ice had stopped spreading entirely, and when he looked into her eyes he saw something he recognized. Not loneliness, that was too simple. Something more complicated. The weight of a power you never asked for. The fear of what you might become. "Because I know what it's like," he said finally. "To be afraid of yourself." Something broke behind her eyes. Just slightly, just for a moment. Then she straightened, pulled her hand back, and wrapped her arms around herself like armor. "There's a cabin," she said quietly. "In the mountains. My parents built it years ago, before everything. No one knows about it but me." Naruto nodded. "Then that's where we go." Outside, the blizzard continued to rage. But inside the ice cave, for the first time in hours, the wind didn't sound quite so much like screaming. They walked through the night. Elsa led, though she stumbled often, her strength clearly failing. Naruto stayed close enough to catch her when she fell, far enough to give her space. He'd learned something about cornered animals during the war. Crowd them too much, and they'd lash out. Better to let them set the pace. The storm began to ease as dawn approached. By the time the sun cracked the horizon, painting the mountains in gold and rose, the wind had died to a whisper and the snow fell soft and gentle. "There," Elsa pointed. Naruto followed her gaze. A cabin nestled in a hollow between 2 peaks, half buried in snow but still standing. Smoke rose from its chimney. "Someone's there." Elsa shook her head. "The fire lights itself. It's..." She hesitated. "It's part of the magic. The cabin was built for me. It responds to my presence." Naruto didn't ask for details. He'd learned not to question things he didn't understand. Chakra was strange enough. Magic apparently followed its own rules. They approached the cabin. The door swung open before Elsa touched it, revealing a single room warmed by a crackling fire. Simple furnishings, a bed, a table, 2 chairs. Shelves lined with books and dried herbs. A window that looked out over the valley below. Elsa stepped inside and immediately sagged against the wall. The ice that had been clinging to her skin, forming patterns on her gown, began to recede. For the first time since he'd seen her, she looked almost human. "Sit down." Naruto guided her to a chair by the fire. "When did you last eat?" She stared at him blankly, as if the concept was foreign. I'm not sure. The men found me 2 days ago. Before that, I was walking. I'd been walking for..." She shook her head. "I don't remember." Naruto's jaw tightened. He found a small kitchen in the corner, stocked with preserved food, dried meat, hard bread, something that might have been cheese. He put together a plate and set it in front of her. "Eat." She looked at the food, then at him. "Why are you still here?" "I told you. I'm helping." "That's not an answer." Her voice was steadier now, the fear banked behind something sharper. Intelligent. Assessing. You don't know me. You have no reason to trust me. I nearly killed you with that ice, and you haven't even flinched. Why? Naruto pulled out the other chair and sat. The fire crackled between them. Outside, the snow continued to fall. My father is missing, he said. He's out here somewhere, in these mountains. I came to find him. Elsa's expression didn't change, but something shifted in her eyes. Then you should be searching for him. Not sitting in a cabin with a stranger. Can't search in a blizzard. Naruto shrugged. Besides, my team's better at tracking than I am. They'll pick up his trail once the storm clears. Right now, there's nothing I can do. So I'm a distraction. You're a person who needed help. Elsa was quiet for a moment. Then she picked up the bread and took a small bite. Chewed. Swallowed. Some of the tension left her shoulders. The men who took me, she said slowly, they weren't the first. There have been others over the years. People who want to use my power. People who want to destroy it. People who want to. She stopped. My parents kept me hidden. For 13 years I barely left my room. They thought if no one saw me, no one would know. No one could hurt me. Naruto thought of the orphanage. Of the years before the academy, when he'd been alone and angry and desperate for anyone to look at him without hatred or fear. That sounds lonely. It was. Elsa's voice was quiet. But it was safe. I couldn't hurt anyone if I was alone. And then, she pressed her lips together. My parents died. On the way to my coronation, the ship went down. And suddenly I was queen of a country I'd never seen, responsible for people I'd never met, with a power I couldn't control. And your sister? Anna. Something softened in Elsa's face. She doesn't remember. What happened when we were children? I made sure of it. She thinks I just closed myself off. That I didn't want to be near her. Her hands tightened in her lap. She's wrong. I wanted nothing more. But every time I was with her, every time I felt happy or loved, the ice would start to form. I couldn't risk it. Naruto thought about what it would cost him to stay away from the people he loved. To lock himself in a room for years rather than risk hurting them. The very idea made his chest ache. You're still doing it, he said. Staying away. Running. Elsa looked up sharply. Those men said they wanted leverage against your sister. That means someone's planning to use you to get to her. And you're up here, alone, where they can find you again. Naruto leaned forward. If you really want to protect her, you can't keep running. You have to face whatever's coming. You don't understand. Ice crackled at Elsa's fingertips. If I go back, if I lose control in the castle, in the city, I could kill hundreds. Thousands. Everything I've spent my whole life trying to prevent. And if you stay here, they'll come for you anyway. And your sister will be alone when they do. Elsa's eyes flashed. You don't know that. I know how people like that think. Naruto's voice was flat. I've spent my whole life fighting them. They don't stop. They don't give up. They find your weakness and they exploit it, over and over, until there's nothing left. The fire popped. Snow slid from the roof with a soft thump. Elsa stared at him for a long moment. Then, slowly, the ice on her fingers receded. Who are you? She whispered. Really? Naruto considered lying. Considered deflecting. But something in her eyes stopped him. My name is Naruto Uzumaki. I'm a shinobi from a country called Konoha. I have a power inside me, too, a fox demon. For most of my life, people feared me because of it. Hated me. Wanted me dead. He held her gaze. I know what it's like to be afraid of yourself. I know what it's like to push people away because you're terrified of what you might do to them. But I also know that running doesn't work. Isolation doesn't work. The only thing that works is... He stopped. Searched for the right words. Is finding people who see you anyway. Who stay anyway. Who remind you that you're more than the thing inside you. Elsa's breath caught. Outside, the wind picked up again. But inside the cabin, by the fire, something shifted between them. Something neither of them had words for yet. I don't know how, Elsa said finally. I've spent so long being afraid. I don't know how to stop. Naruto thought about all the people who'd taught him, Iruka, Kakashi, Jiraiya, Sasuke, Sakura. All the hands that had reached for him when he was drowning. All the moments that had slowly, painfully, taught him he was worthy of love. One day at a time, he said. One choice at a time. You start by not running. Then you figure out the rest. Elsa looked at him for a long moment. Then, slowly, she nodded. Okay, she said quietly. Okay. The fire crackled. The snow fell. And somewhere in the mountains, the men who wanted to use a queen's power against her sister began to move. Dawn painted the mountains in shades of amber and rose, but Elsa barely noticed. She stood at the cabin's window, arms wrapped around herself, watching the snow-covered valley below. Somewhere out there, men were planning to use her against Anna. Somewhere out there, her sister was probably frantic with worry, sending search parties that would never find her. And behind her, a stranger slept in the only chair, his whisker-marked face slack with exhaustion. What am I doing? The question had circled her mind all night. She'd let this boy, this shinobi, he called himself, into her sanctuary. Told him things she'd never told anyone. Sat beside him while he explained, with brutal simplicity, that running wouldn't save her. He didn't understand. How could he? He spoke of demons and hatred like they were things he'd conquered, battles already won. But Elsa knew better. The eyes didn't care about courage or conviction. It responded to fear, to anger, to love, to everything she'd spent her whole life trying to suppress. One moment of weakness, and Anna had almost died. One moment of weakness now, Anne. You're thinking too loud. Elsa startled. Naruto hadn't moved, but his eyes were open, watching her with that unnerving directness he had. Like he could see straight through to the fear she was trying so hard to hide. I'm thinking about what comes next, she said. That's what I said. Too loud. He sat up, stretching with a series of pops that made her wince. His clothes were still damp from the storm, but he didn't seem to notice. You've been standing there for 3 hours. I counted. You were asleep. Shinobi. He shrugged. We learned to sleep with one eye open. Kind of. He stood and crossed to the small kitchen, rummaging through the stores. Eat first. Then we figure out the rest. Elsa's lips twitched despite herself. Is that your solution to everything? Eat first, think later? It's worked so far. He found more of the dried meat and tossed her a piece. She caught it automatically, then stared at it. What? You need energy. Can't save your sister on empty. I'm not sure I can save my sister. The words came out before she could stop them. If I go back to Arendelle, if I'm around people again, the ice could... Could what? Naruto turned to face her, a piece of bread halfway to his mouth. Kill someone? Hurt someone? He took a bite, chewed, swallowed. Yeah. That's a risk. But staying here won't stop those men from finding Anna. And if they're willing to kidnap a queen to get to her, they're probably willing to do worse. Elsa's stomach turned. She set the meat down, untouched. You don't know that. I know people. His voice was flat again, that strange coldness that didn't match his face. I've seen what they do to get what they want. The ones who hire mercenaries to grab royalty don't stop at threats. They follow through. The fire crackled. Outside, a bird called somewhere in the distance, the first sign of life since the storm had broken. What happened to you? Elsa heard herself ask. To make you so. She gestured vaguely. Like this? Naruto was quiet for a moment. Then he moved to the window, standing beside her close enough that she could feel the warmth radiating from his body. Strange how someone so cold on the surface could burn so hot underneath. I told you about the fox demon. It wasn't a question. Kurama. For most of my life, he was just rage. Hatred. A voice in my head telling me everyone would always fear me, always hate me, because of what I carried. He paused. He wasn't wrong. For a long time, they did. Elsa's chest tightened. But you said, people who saw you anyway. Who stayed? Yeah. Some of the coldness left his face. A few. My teacher. My teammates. A old pervert who was annoying as hell but taught me everything I know. His mouth curved slightly. They didn't fix anything. Not really. They just stayed. Long enough for me to figure out that I could be more than the demon. That the demon could be more than hatred. Elsa stared at him. Your demon. You're saying it's complicated. Naruto turned to look at her directly. Like your ice. Not good, not evil. Just power. What matters is what you do with it. For a moment, just a moment, Elsa let herself imagine it. Let herself believe that the ice could be something other than a curse. That she could touch her sister without fear. Walk through the castle without watching for frost. Live. Then reality crashed back down. You don't understand. She pulled away from the window, from his warmth. This isn't a demon I can befriend. This is me. Every emotion, every feeling, it manifests. If I'm happy, ice forms. If I'm angry, it spreads. If I'm scared. She held up her hands. Frost was already gathering on her fingertips. I can't control it. I've tried. For 13 years I've tried. Naruto didn't flinch. Didn't step back. Just watched her with those impossible blue eyes. Then you've been trying the wrong way. Elsa's hands dropped. Excuse me? Fear. He said it simply, like it was obvious. You said it yourself, you've spent 13 years afraid. Afraid of yourself, afraid of your power, afraid of hurting people. That fear, that's what you're trying to control with. But fear doesn't control anything. Fear makes everything worse. Easy for you to say. The words came out sharper than she intended. You weren't the one who almost killed your sister. You weren't the one who spent years locked in a room, watching the people you love through a door you couldn't open. You don't know what it's like to look at your own hands and see. She stopped. Her voice had risen, and ice was spreading across the floor, crawling up the walls. Crystal patterns glittered in the firelight, beautiful and terrifying. Elsa's breath caught. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. Don't. Naruto's voice was quiet, but it cut through her panic. Don't apologize. Don't try to shove it down. Just breathe. I can't. Yes, you can. He moved closer, slowly, deliberately, the way she imagined one might approach a frightened animal. You've been doing this your whole life. You know what happens when you panic. So don't. Just breathe. His eyes held hers. Calm. Steady. Waiting. Elsa's heart hammered against her ribs. The ice continued spreading, climbing toward the ceiling, covering the window. But Naruto didn't move. Didn't run. Just stood there, close enough to touch, watching her with that impossible patience. She breathed. In. Out. In. Out. The ice stopped spreading. Good, Naruto said quietly. Now again. She breathed. The ice on the walls began to recede, melting into water that ran down the logs and pooled on the floor. Her hands were shaking, but the frost on her fingers was fading. Again. She breathed. By the time she'd drawn the third breath, the ice was gone, leaving only damp wood and the lingering cold. Elsa sagged against the wall. Her legs wouldn't hold her anymore. She slid down until she was sitting on the floor, her gown pooling around her, her whole body trembling. Naruto sat down across from her. Not too close. Just close enough. That was. She couldn't finish. Yeah. He nodded. I know. They sat in silence for a long moment. The fire popped and crackled. Water dripped slowly from the ceiling. How did you know? Elsa finally asked. That it would work? I didn't. Naruto shrugged. But I've seen what happens when people try to fight their own nature. It doesn't work. You can't defeat fear by being more afraid. He paused. My teacher, the old pervert, he used to say that real strength isn't about suppressing your emotions. It's about feeling them and choosing what to do anyway. Elsa thought about that. About all the years she'd spent trying to feel nothing. Trying to be nothing. How the ice had always found a way through anyway. The men who took me, she said slowly. They said someone hired them. Someone from the south. That's what I heard. My sister's coronation is in 3 days. Elsa's voice tightened. If someone wants leverage against her, they'll move before then. While she's vulnerable. While the kingdom is in transition. Naruto's eyes sharpened. You think they'll try something at the coronation? I think it's the perfect opportunity. Elsa pushed herself to her feet, her mind suddenly clear. The castle will be full of foreign dignitaries. Security will be stretched thin. And Anna. She pressed her lips together. Anna is trusting. She wants to believe the best in everyone. She won't see it coming. Then we need to warn her. We? Elsa looked at him. You don't have to. I know. He stood too. But I'm not letting you walk into this alone. Something warm flickered in Elsa's chest. She pushed it down immediately, afraid of what it might unleash. But Naruto just nodded, like he understood. The storm's cleared, he said. We can make it to the castle by nightfall if we move fast. Elsa looked toward the window. The sun was fully up now, painting the mountains in gold. Somewhere in the valley below, her city waited. Her sister waited. The life she'd run from waited. One choice at a time. Okay, she said. Let's go. They moved through the mountains like shadows. Naruto set a pace that Elsa wouldn't have thought possible, swift and sure, his feet finding purchase on ice and rock that should have been impossible to cross. He adjusted for her without comment, slowing when she struggled, offering a hand at the treacherous parts without making her feel weak for accepting it. By midday, they'd descended below the snow line. Pine forests replaced bare rock, and the air grew warmer. Elsa could feel the eye stirring less frequently, responding to something, relief maybe. Or hope. She didn't let herself examine it too closely. Stop. Naruto's hand shot out, catching her arm. Elsa froze. What? He pulled her behind a cluster of boulders, one hand pressing her down, the other moving to his lips in a gesture for silence. His eyes were fixed on something ahead, through the trees. Then she heard it. Voices. Men's voices, coming from the direction of the main road. Should have been back by now. Something went wrong. The Queen's magic. I told you it was a bad idea to send mercenaries after someone like that. The prince wanted it done quietly. No direct involvement. If those idiots failed, we need to adjust. Elsa's blood went cold. Prince? What prince? Naruto's hand tightened on her arm, a warning to stay still. Through the gap in the boulders, she could see them now, 4 men in dark traveling cloaks, armed with swords and crossbows. Not mercenaries this time. Soldiers. Disciplined, well-equipped, with the look of men who followed orders without question. The sister's coronation is in 3 days. If we can't use the queen as leverage, we'll have to move directly. Against the princess? That's riskier. She's protected. Protected by guards who've never seen real combat. The prince's intelligence says they're ceremonial at best. We can get through them. And then what? Kidnap her in broad daylight? The leader smiled. It wasn't a pleasant expression. We don't need to kidnap her. We just need her to make a choice. The prince has made that very clear. Elsa's heart hammered. Anna. They were planning something against Anna. Something that didn't require kidnapping, something worse. Naruto's grip on her arm gentled slightly. When she looked at him, his expression had gone hard in a way that made her grateful she wasn't his enemy. 4 of them. He breathed, so quietly she barely heard. I can take them. But I need you to stay here. Don't move. Don't make a sound. Can you do that? Elsa nodded. Her throat was too tight for words. Naruto released her and melted into the trees. She didn't see him move. One moment he was there, the next he was gone, leaving nothing but a faint rustle of pine needles. Elsa pressed herself against the boulder and tried to breathe quietly. The men continued talking, unaware. Prince said the southern army is ready to move. Once the princess is under his control, Arendelle falls without a fight. The other kingdoms won't stand for it. They won't know until it's too late. By the time anyone realizes what's happened, the prince will be married to the princess and Arendelle's army will answer to him. A fait accompli. Married. Elsa's vision went red. They were planning to marry Anna. To use her as a puppet, a figurehead, while some southern prince pulled the strings. Her sister, her sweet, trusting, hopeful sister, would be trapped in a marriage to a man who saw her as nothing but a tool. The ice surged. Elsa clenched her fists, forced it down. Not now. Not now. Breathe. Breathe. A sound cut through the forest. Not loud, just a soft thump, like something heavy hitting the ground. Then another. A third. The men's voices stopped. Elsa risked a look around the boulder. 3 of them were down, crumpled in the snow without a sound. The 4th had his sword half drawn, his eyes wide, searching the trees for an enemy he couldn't see. Naruto appeared behind him like he'd stepped out of the air itself. The man spun, sword swinging, and hit nothing. Naruto was already inside his guard, one hand catching his sword arm, the other pressing against his chest. A pulse of something, chakra, Elsa realized, and the man went rigid. Then he crumpled, unconscious before he hit the ground. Naruto stood in the silence, breathing evenly, and looked toward the boulders. Clear. Elsa emerged on shaking legs. The men lay scattered across the snow, unconscious but alive. She could see their chests rising and falling. You didn't kill them. No need. Naruto was already crouching beside the leader, searching his pockets. They're soldiers. Following orders. The real threat is whoever gave them. He pulled out a folded paper and scanned it quickly. His expression darkened. What? Elsa moved closer. What does it say? Orders from someone called Prince Hans. Southern Isles, plans to... He stopped. Looked at her. Plans to propose to your sister at the coronation. Gain her trust. Then, once they're married, assume control of Arendelle's military and... He handed her the paper. Elsa read. The words blurred in front of her. Neutralize any opposition from the former queen. Her magic makes her unpredictable, but if she can be contained or eliminated, the transition will be smoother. The princess's trust is key. Make her love you. Make her believe you're her savior. Then take everything. Anna. Elsa's voice cracked. She's been so alone. If someone shows her kindness, if someone pretends to care. She looked up at Naruto, her eyes wide. She'll believe him. She believes everyone. Naruto's jaw tightened. Then we get there first. We warn her. It's a 3-day journey to the castle. The coronation is in 3 days. If we travel normally. We won't travel normally. Naruto stood. I can get us there faster. But you'll have to trust me. Elsa looked at him. At this stranger who'd appeared in the middle of a blizzard and somehow become her only ally. At the man who'd talked her down from panic, who'd fought for her without hesitation, who looked at her eyes without fear. I trust you, she said. Something flickered in his eyes. Surprise, maybe? Or something deeper. Okay. He held out his hand. Then hold on. And don't let go. Elsa took his hand. The world blurred. They moved through the forest at a speed Elsa couldn't comprehend. Trees became streaks of brown and green. Snow became wind against her face. Naruto's hand was a constant warmth in hers, pulling her forward, keeping her upright as the ground flew beneath her feet. It should have been terrifying. It was terrifying. But beneath the fear, something else stirred. Something that felt almost like exhilaration. This is what freedom feels like, she thought. This is what it means to not be afraid. The ice stirred in response, but not with fear. With something else. Something she didn't have a name for. They broke from the forest as the sun began to set. Below them, spread across a fjord, lay Arendelle. The castle rose from the water like something out of a storybook, its spires catching the last light of day. The city clustered around it, warm and alive, with smoke rising from chimneys and lights beginning to flicker in windows. Home. Elsa's breath caught. I'd forgotten, she whispered. How beautiful it is. Naruto released her hand slowly, like he was reluctant to let go. We're close. Another hour, maybe less, and we'll be at the castle gates. Elsa nodded. But she didn't move. Couldn't move. Because now that she was here, now that she could see the life she'd abandoned, the fear came rushing back. What if Anna hated her? What if the people were terrified of her? What if she walked through those gates and the ice erupted and she destroyed everything she'd spent her whole life trying to protect? Hey! Naruto's voice was quiet. You're doing it again. Elsa looked at him. Doing what? Thinking too loud. He tilted his head toward the castle. Your sister's in there. She doesn't know someone's planning to use her. She doesn't know you're coming. Right now, the only thing that matters is getting to her before that prince does. And after? Elsa's voice was barely a whisper. After I warn her, after I stop him, what then? I can't stay. You know I can't. Naruto was quiet for a moment. Then he said, maybe that's a question for after. One step at a time, remember? Elsa wanted to argue. Wanted to explain that some questions couldn't wait, that some fears couldn't be pushed aside. But looking at his face, calm, patient, utterly certain, she found she couldn't. One step at a time, she repeated. They started down the mountain. The castle gates loomed before them as darkness fell fully. Guards patrolled the walls, their torches casting flickering shadows. Elsa pulled her hood up, hiding her face. She wasn't ready to be recognized yet. Wasn't ready for the questions, the fear, the inevitable distance. How do we get in? She asked. Naruto studied the walls for a moment. Guards are alert. Professional. Not just ceremonial, someone's trained them well. He glanced at her. You know another way? Servants' entrance? Hidden passages? Elsa hesitated. Then, reluctantly, she nodded. When we were children, Anna and I used to explore the castle. We found passages everywhere, servant routes, old escape tunnels, places even our parents didn't know about. She paused. There's one that leads to the library. If it's still there. Show me. They circled the walls, keeping to the shadows. Elsa led him to a small door half hidden behind overgrown ivy, tucked into a corner where the castle met the cliff face. The wood was old, the hinges rusted, but when she pushed, it swung inward with a groan. Inside, darkness. The smell of dust and old paper. Elsa felt her way forward, one hand against the stone wall, and Naruto followed in silence. The passage wound upward, narrow and cramped. Elsa counted the turns from memory, left at the third intersection, right at the fifth, straight until you feel the cold draft from the kitchen. Her heart pounded with every step. What if someone had discovered the passages? What if they walked straight into a guard patrol? What if Anna wasn't alone? They emerged behind a bookshelf in the library. Elsa pushed it aside just enough to peer through, and froze. Anna was there. She sat at a table in the center of the room, surrounded by papers and books, her chin propped on her hand. Candlelight flickered across her face, illuminating the familiar features Elsa had spent years memorizing from behind closed doors. The same auburn hair. The same determined set to her jaw. The same warmth in her eyes that Elsa had always been too afraid to get close to. She looked tired. Worried. Alone. And beside her, one hand resting gently on her shoulder, stood a man Elsa had never seen before. Handsome, with a charming smile and eyes that were just a little too calculating. "Don't worry, princess," he said softly. "Your sister will come back. I'm sure of it." Anna looked up at him, and Elsa's heart shattered. Because in her sister's eyes, her trusting, hopeful, desperate for love sister's eyes, she saw something she recognized. Hope. Elsa's hand moved before her mind caught up. The eyes surged, not the panicked, uncontrolled burst from before, but something sharper. Colder. Aimed. A spike of crystal shot from her palm, crossing the library in an instant, and embedded itself in the bookshelf inches from the stranger's head. He spun, shoving Anna behind him, one hand going to his sword. "Guards!" "No!" Anna's voice cut through the chaos. She pushed past the man, her eyes wide, searching the shadows where the eyes had come from. "Elsa? Elsa?" Elsa stepped from behind the bookshelf. For a moment, no one moved. Anna stared at her like she was seeing a ghost. The stranger's hand remained on his sword, his expression shifting from alarm to calculation so quickly Elsa almost missed it. And Naruto had melted somewhere into the shadows, invisible, waiting. "Anna." Elsa's voice came out rough. "I need to talk to you. Alone." "You're alive?" Anna's eyes filled with tears. "You're alive, you're here, I thought, when you didn't come back, when the guards couldn't find you." She started forward, arms outstretched. Elsa stepped back. Anna froze. The hurt on her face was like a physical blow. "Don't." Elsa's hands clenched at her sides. The ice was still there, humming beneath her skin, waiting for an excuse. "Please! Just don't come closer." "But..." she said. "Don't." Naruto's voice came from nowhere and everywhere. The stranger's sword was out in an instant, but Naruto was already behind him, one hand resting casually on the man's shoulder like they were old friends. "I wouldn't," Naruto said pleasantly. "She's not the dangerous one here." The stranger's eyes went wide. "Who are you? How did you?" "The queen asked for a private conversation with her sister." Naruto's grip tightened just slightly. "Why don't we step outside and give them some space?" "I'm not leaving the princess alone with..." "It's okay, Hans." Anna's voice was small. "She's my sister. She won't hurt me." Hans. Elsa's blood went cold. The name from the letter. The prince from the Southern Isles, standing in her library, touching her sister, wearing a mask of concern while planning to destroy everything. Hans. She tasted the name like poison. Prince Hans of the Southern Isles. He smiled. It didn't reach his eyes. "You've heard of me. I'm flattered." "I've heard enough." Elsa's voice dropped. "Naruto." "I know." Naruto's hand shifted on Hans's shoulder. "Come on, Prince. Let's talk." He steered Hans toward the door with deceptive casualness. Hans went willingly enough, but his eyes never left Elsa's face. Calculating. Weighing. Planning. The door closed behind them. Elsa and Anna were alone. For a long moment neither spoke. Anna stood in the candlelight, tears still wet on her cheeks, her hands clasped in front of her like she was afraid to move. Elsa stayed by the bookshelf, arms wrapped around herself, fighting the ice that wanted to spread. "You're alive?" Anna whispered again. 3 years. 3 years you've been gone, and I didn't know if you were dead or..." Her voice broke. "I miss you so much." The words hit Elsa like stones. Each one a weight she couldn't carry. "You shouldn't have." Her voice came out harsh. "You should have forgotten me. Moved on. Lived your life without..." "Without my sister?" Anna's eyes flashed. "Is that what you wanted? For me to just pretend you didn't exist? Pretend we didn't grow up together, didn't play together, didn't love each other?" "You don't remember." The words escaped before Elsa could stop them. "You don't remember what I did. What I am." Anna's expression shifted. Confusion, then understanding, then something that looked almost like grief. "The ice," she said quietly. "When we were children. I've tried to remember, but it's just blank. Like someone erased it. I did. Elsa's voice cracked. The trolls. They took your memories to protect you. From me. From you? Anna took a step forward. Elsa stepped back. Anna stopped. Elsa, whatever happened, whatever you think you did, I don't care. You're my sister. That's all that matters. You don't understand. Ice was creeping across the floor now, despite Elsa's efforts. When I'm scared, when I'm angry, when I'm happy, it comes out. I can't control it. I almost killed you once. If it happens again. It won't. You don't know that. I know you. Anna's voice was fierce. I know you locked yourself in your room for 13 years because you were afraid of hurting me. I know you ran away to the mountains because you thought you were protecting everyone. I know you came back. Her voice softened. I know you came back, even though you were terrified, because someone needed you. Elsa's breath caught. Who? She whispered. Anna's brow furrowed. What? The man, Hans. How long has he been here? A few days. He arrived just after you disappeared. He's been. Anna's cheeks flushed slightly. He's been wonderful. Helping with the coronation arrangements, keeping me company, making sure I eat and sleep. He said he'd help me find you. Elsa's heart clenched. Anna, listen to me. Hans isn't what he seems. He's planning. He's planning to marry me. Anna's flush deepened. He hasn't said it yet, but I can tell. He looks at me the way people in stories look at each other. Like I matter. Like I'm seen. Anna. I know what you're going to say. Anna's voice hardened. That I'm naive. That I fall in love too easily. That I don't know him well enough. But Elsa, I've been alone for 3 years. 3 years. You left, and I had no one. Father and mother were gone, and you were gone, and the castle was so empty. She wiped her eyes angrily. Hans is the first person in years who's made me feel like I'm not alone. Like I'm not invisible. The ice on the floor stopped spreading. Elsa looked at her sister, really looked at her, and saw for the first time what her absence had done. The loneliness she tried to protect Anna from had become its own kind of wound. Deeper, maybe, than any ice could make. I'm sorry. The words came out broken. Anna, I'm so sorry. I thought if I stayed away you'd be safe. I didn't realize. That you were hurting me anyway? Anna's laugh was bitter. Yeah. That's kind of what family does, isn't it? Hurt each other without meaning to. She took a breath. But Elsa, I don't care about the past. I care about now. You're here. You came back. That has to count for something. It does. Elsa's voice was barely a whisper. It counts for everything. But Anna, Hans. The door burst open. Naruto stood in the doorway, his expression grim. Behind him, Elsa could hear shouting, guards, many of them, moving through the castle. He's gone, Naruto said. Got past me somehow, must have had help. There's a dozen guards heading this way, and they're not looking friendly. Elsa's blood ran cold. He's making his move. Blaming me for something, attacking him, threatening the princess. We need to go. Naruto crossed to her in 3 strides. Now. No. Anna's voice was sharp. She's not running again. If Hans is planning something, we face it together. You don't understand. Naruto's eyes were hard. Your guards have been trained by someone. They're not going to listen to explanations. They're going to follow orders. Whose orders? The voice came from the hallway. Smooth. Confident. Hans stepped into view, flanked by a dozen armed guards. His handsome face was arranged in an expression of concern, but his eyes glittered with triumph. Princess Anna, thank goodness you're safe. He moved toward her, hands outstretched. Your sister, she attacked me. Her magic, I barely escaped. Anna looked at him. Then at Elsa. Then back at him. She attacked you? I'm afraid so. Hans's voice was gentle, understanding. I don't know what's happened to her, but she's not herself. The ice, the violence, she's dangerous. You see that now, don't you? Elsa watched her sister's face. Watched the war play out behind her eyes, the longing to believe, the fear of being alone again, the desperate hope that someone, finally, saw her. Please, Elsa thought. Please, Anna. See what I see. Anna's gaze moved to Hans. Studied his face. Then, slowly, she turned to Elsa. What did you see? She asked quietly. When you first saw him with me? Elsa blinked. What? In the library. Before you attacked him. You looked at him, and then you looked at me, and your face. Anna's voice trembled. You looked like someone watching a disaster happen, Like you couldn't stop it. I saw. Elsa swallowed. I saw a man who was going to hurt you. Use you. Marry you for your crown and then. She couldn't finish. Anna was quiet for a long moment. Then she turned back to Hans. Where were you born? Hans's expression flickered. What? The Southern Isles. Which one? There are 12. Which island? Hans's smile tightened. The main one. The largest. Anna nodded slowly. And your mother's name? What does that have to do with anything? Humor me. Hans's eyes darted to the guards, then back to Anna. Eleanor. Her name was Eleanor. Wrong. Anna's voice was cold. Prince Hans of the Southern Isles' mother died when he was born. Her name was Gisela. Every child in Arendelle knows that. We studied the royal families as part of our education. She stepped closer to him. You're not Prince Hans. Or if you are, you're not the one who's been courting me. So who are you really? For a heartbeat, the mask slipped. Hans's face twisted into something ugly. Clever girl. I underestimated you. He moved fast, faster than Elsa expected. His hand shot out, grabbing Anna's wrist, yanking her against him. A knife appeared in his other hand, pressed against her throat. Everyone stay where you are. His voice had lost all pretense of gentleness. Or the princess dies. The guards froze. Some looked confused, others calculating. Clearly not all of them were in on the plot. Elsa's vision went red. The ice erupted. It blasted from her in a wave, not the uncontrolled bursts of before, but something focused, aimed. Crystal spikes shot toward Hans, forcing him to release Anna and stumble back. A wall of ice slammed down between them, separating him from his hostage. Frost coated the floor, the walls, the ceiling, turning the hallway into a glittering cave. Hans stared at the ice, his face pale. Then he smiled. You see? He called out to the guards. This is what she is. A monster. A danger to everyone. The princess was trying to expose me, and her own sister nearly killed her to protect me. That's not... Anna started. But the guards were looking at Elsa. At the ice covering every surface. At the power they couldn't understand. Seize her, Hans ordered. The queen is a threat to the crown. The guards hesitated. Then, slowly, they began to move. Elsa backed away. The ice responded to her fear, spreading faster, climbing the walls. She could feel herself losing control, feel the panic rising. A hand caught hers. Naruto. I've got you, he said quietly. Breathe. She breathed. The ice stopped spreading. Now listen. His voice was low, meant only for her. I can get you out of here. But Anna. I'm not leaving her. Elsa's grip tightened on his hand. Not again. Naruto looked at her for a long moment. Then he nodded. Okay. Then we fight. He released her hand and moved. The guards never saw him coming. He flowed through them like water, his movements too fast to track. One moment they were advancing, the next, they were on the ground, unconscious, their weapons scattered. Hans stared, his composure finally cracking. What, who? The name's Naruto Uzumaki. Naruto stood between Hans and the sisters, his expression cold. And I've dealt with plenty of men like you. Men who use people. Who manipulate and lie and pretend to be something they're not. He took a step forward. You want to get to the queen? You go through me. Hans's eyes darted left and right, calculating his options. The guards were down. His knife was useless against someone who moved like that. And the queen's ice was still humming in the air, waiting for an excuse. This isn't over, he said finally. You think this changes anything? There are more of us. More plans. The Southern Isles won't stop until Arendelle falls. He reached into his coat. Naruto moved. Too late. Smoke exploded through the hallway, thick and choking. By the time it cleared, Hans was gone. Elsa stared at the empty space where he'd stood. Her hands were shaking. The ice was receding, melting into water that pooled on the floor. He's still out there, she whispered. He's going to try again. Anna moved to her side, carefully avoiding the remaining ice. Then we stop him. Together. Elsa looked at her sister. At the guards groaning on the floor. At Naruto, watching the shadows for more threats. Together, she repeated. The word felt strange in her mouth. Foreign. Like something she'd read about but never experienced. But looking at Anna's face, determined, hopeful, alive. She thought maybe it was worth learning. They retreated to the library. The guards, who'd been loyal, and there were more than Elsa had expected, secured the castle and began searching for Hans. Others were questioned, sorted, separated. By dawn, they'd identified a dozen Southern Isles sympathizers within the guard. All were arrested. All claimed ignorance of the full plot. Elsa sat by the fire, wrapped in a blanket Anna had insisted on bringing, and tried to stop shaking. "You're doing it again." Naruto's voice came from somewhere to her left. He positioned himself by the window, watching the courtyard below, but his attention was on her. "Doing what?" "Thinking too loud." He didn't turn. "You saved her. You stopped him. That's 2 wins in one day. Most people would be celebrating." "Most people didn't almost kill their sister with ice." Elsa's voice was flat. Again. "You didn't almost kill her. You protected her." Now he did turn, meeting her eyes. "I saw it. You were scared, yeah? But when he grabbed her, you didn't freeze. You acted. You put yourself between her and danger. That's what a queen is supposed to do." "No." Naruto shook his head. "That's what a sister does. Queen is just a title. Sister is..." He paused, searching for words. "Sister is something you choose. Every day. Even when it's hard. Even when you're scared." Elsa looked at her hands. The ice had receded completely now, leaving only the memory of cold. "I don't know how," she whispered. "To be a sister. To be anything other than afraid." Naruto crossed the room and sat on the floor beside her chair. Not too close. Just close enough. "Nobody knows how," he said quietly. "You figure it out as you go. You make mistakes. You hurt people without meaning to. And then you apologize and you try again." He was quiet for a moment. "I had a teammate once. Sasuke. We were complicated. For a long time, I thought if I could just bring him back, everything would be okay. That we'd be a team again, like we were supposed to be." His jaw tightened. "But you can't force people to stay. You can't make them want what you want. Sometimes the best you can do is be there when they need you." Elsa studied his face. The whisker marks. The blue eyes that held so much more than they showed. The weight he carried without complaining. "Who taught you that?" she asked softly. "How to be this?" Naruto's mouth curved slightly. "Lots of people. A teacher who believed in me when no one else did. A teammate who never gave up on me, even when I was being an idiot. An old pervert who annoyed me constantly but taught me everything that mattered." He paused. "And my father. For 5 minutes before he died, I got to meet my father. He told me he believed in me. That he was proud of me. That," his voice caught, "that it was okay to be scared, as long as I didn't let it stop me." Elsa's heart ached. "Your father. The one you're looking for." "Yeah." Naruto's eyes went distant. "He's out there somewhere. And I'm here sitting in a castle when I should be saving a queen you didn't know existed 3 days ago?" Elsa's voice was gentle. "Stopping a plot that would have destroyed a kingdom? Protecting a sister who needed you?" Naruto looked at her. "You didn't ask for this," Elsa continued. "You didn't have to stay. But you did. You chose to." She held his gaze. "That matters. It matters more than you know." For a long moment, they just looked at each other. The fire crackled. Somewhere in the castle, guards called to each other, searching for threats that might already be gone. "I should go," Naruto said finally. "Find my father. Finish my mission." "You should." Elsa's voice was steady. "But first..." She hesitated. "First, help me make sure Anna's safe. Help me find Hans before he can try again. Then..." She swallowed. "Then I'll help you find your father. The mountains know me. If he's out there, I can find him." Naruto's eyes widened slightly. "You'd do that? After everything?" "You stayed." Elsa's voice was quiet but firm. "The least I can do is return the favor." Something shifted in Naruto's expression. Surprise, maybe? Or gratitude? Or something deeper that neither of them had words for yet. "Okay," he said. "Together then." Elsa nodded. "Together." Across the room, Anna watched them from the doorway, a small smile playing at her lips. She didn't interrupt. Didn't announce herself. Just watched her sister, her frozen, frightened, and possibly brave sister, reach out and take the hand of a stranger who'd become something more. For the first time in years, Anna let herself hope. Dawn broke over Arendelle like a wound. Elsa stood on the castle's highest balcony, watching the light creep across the fjord, and tried to remember how to breathe. Below her, the city stirred to life, fishermen launching their boats, merchants opening their stalls, children running through streets still wet with dew. Normal life. Ordinary life. The kind of life she'd never known. She'd been queen for 3 years and had spent exactly 0 of those years actually ruling. Coronation day didn't count, she'd fled before the sun set. Since then, the kingdom had been managed by a council of advisors, their decisions relayed to her through closed doors, her signature forged on documents she never read. What kind of queen hid from her own people? The kind who's afraid of killing them, a voice whispered. The kind who knows what she really is. Elsa pressed her hands against the stone railing. No ice. Not yet. But she could feel it waiting, humming beneath her skin, ready to answer any emotion she was stupid enough to feel. You've been out here for 3 hours. She didn't turn. She'd heard Naruto approach, his footsteps were careful, deliberate, nothing like the silent movement he used when he didn't want to be noticed. He was giving her a choice. See me or don't. Your decision. I'm thinking, she said. Dangerous habit. He moved to stand beside her, leaning against the railing with a casualness that seemed almost obscene given the 50-meter drop below. My teacher used to say that thinking too much is just another way of being afraid. Your teacher sounds like he didn't think very much. Naruto snorted. Yeah, that's fair. Jiraiya was. He paused, something flickering across his face. He was complicated. Brilliant and stupid in equal measure. Wrote dirty books, trained me like I was the only student who mattered, died saving people who would have killed him without hesitation. His voice went quiet. I think about him every day. Elsa looked at him. Really looked. At the way his jaw tightened when he mentioned death. At the weight behind his eyes that he tried so hard to hide. At the boy, no, the man, who carried more grief than he showed. I'm sorry, she said quietly. For your loss. Naruto shrugged, but it was forced. It was a long time ago. War. Lots of people died. That doesn't make it hurt less. He was quiet for a moment. Then, no. It doesn't. They stood together in the growing light, two people who understood loss better than they understood anything else. Below them, Arendelle continued its peaceful mourning, unaware of the queen watching from above. The council meets in an hour, Elsa said finally. Anna insisted. She thinks I need to start. She gestured vaguely. Being queen, I suppose? What do you think? I think she's right. The words came out before Elsa could stop them. I think I've spent 13 years hiding from everything that matters, and if I don't start facing it now, I never will. She turned to look at him. But I also think I have no idea how. I don't know these people. I don't know their names, their families, their problems. I've been gone so long I'm practically a stranger. Naruto considered this. So get to know them. It's not that simple. Why not? Elsa opened her mouth to explain all the reasons, the ice, the fear, the years of isolation that had left her unable to connect with anyone, but the words wouldn't come. Because looking at Naruto's face, she realized he genuinely didn't understand why it was complicated. For him, the solution to every problem was straightforward: identify the obstacle, find a way through, keep moving. I can't just. She stopped. Started again. When I'm around people, I have to be careful. Every word, every expression, every feeling, I have to control all of it. One moment of weakness and what? Naruto's voice was gentle but insistent. You'll show them who you really are? That you have power? That you're human? That I'm dangerous. We're all dangerous. He said it simply, like it was obvious. Every person in that city could hurt someone if they wanted to. Most of them choose not to. That's what makes them good, not the absence of power. Elsa stared at him. You really believe that? Yeah. I do. He met her eyes. I've spent my whole life around people who wanted to use power for terrible things. And I've spent my whole life around people who use their power to protect others. The power itself isn't the problem. It's what you do with it. The words settled into Elsa's chest like stones. Heavy. Solid. Immovable. What if I don't know what to do with it? She whispered. What if I've spent so long being afraid that I've forgotten how to be anything else? Naruto was quiet for a moment. Then he reached out and took her hand. It was such a simple gesture. Such an ordinary thing. But Elsa felt the warmth of his palm against hers, felt the calluses from years of combat, felt the steady pulse of his heartbeat through his skin, and for the first time in as long as she could remember, she didn't feel the ice stir. She was too focused on the warmth. You figure it out, Naruto said quietly. One day at a time. One choice at a time. You start by showing up. Then you figure out the rest. Elsa looked down at their joined hands. At the way his fingers curled around hers like it was the most natural thing in the world. Why? She asked. Why do you care so much? You barely know me. Naruto's grip tightened slightly. Because you remind me of someone. Someone who spent his whole life being told he was dangerous. That he didn't belong. That he'd never be anything but a monster. His voice was steady, but she could hear the pain beneath it. It took me a long time to realize they were wrong. I don't want it to take you that long. Elsa's eyes burned. She blinked rapidly, refusing to let the tears fall. Tears were emotion. Emotion meant ice. Ice meant. Nothing happened. She was crying. Actual tears, running down her cheeks, and the ice remained quiet. I don't understand. She breathed. Why isn't it? Maybe because you're not fighting it. Naruto's thumb traced a gentle circle on the back of her hand. Maybe because you're finally letting yourself feel something without being terrified of what comes next. Elsa laughed. It came out wet and broken, but it was a laugh. I'm crying. In front of a stranger. On a balcony. This is insane. Probably. Naruto's mouth curved. But insane isn't always bad. They stood like that for a long moment, hands clasped, tears falling, the sun rising over a kingdom that had no idea its queen was learning how to be human. The council chamber was everything Elsa remembered and nothing she wanted. Long table, dark wood, 12 chairs filled by 12 men who'd spent the last 3 years running her kingdom without her. They rose when she entered, protocol demanded it, but their eyes were cold. Assessing. Waiting to see if she'd run again. Anna sat at the far end, already in place, her expression carefully neutral. Beside her, in a chair that definitely hadn't been there before, sat Naruto. He'd insisted on attending. You're walking into a room full of people who've gotten very comfortable ruling without you, he'd said. They're not going to be happy about you taking back control. Elsa had wanted to argue. Had wanted to explain that she didn't want control, didn't want any of this. But looking at his face, she'd realized he already knew. She took her seat at the head of the table. Your Majesty. The man at her right spoke first, white-haired, sharp-eyed, with the kind of face that smiled easily and meant nothing by it. We're relieved to see you return safely. The kingdom has been concerned. Concerned? Elsa repeated. Is that what we're calling it? The man's smile didn't waver. Naturally. Your disappearance caused quite a stir. The coronation had to be postponed. Trade negotiations were disrupted. And now, with this unfortunate incident involving Prince Hans, he spread his hands. Stability is fragile, Your Majesty. Every moment of uncertainty weakens us. Elsa felt the ice stir. She breathed. It settled. Prince Hans was a threat, she said calmly. He planned to use my sister to seize control of Arendelle. My actions prevented that. Your actions? Another counselor spoke, younger, with the sharp features of someone who'd never been contradicted. You mean your attack on a foreign dignitary in our own library? Your use of... He paused, his lip curling slightly. Your magic in front of half the guard? My magic saved my sister's life. Your magic terrified half the castle. The servants are whispering. The guards are uncertain. The people are... He stopped, clearly choosing his words carefully. The people remember the old stories. The ones about your grandfather. About what happened when magic ruled Arendelle. Elsa went cold. Not the ice, this was different. Deeper. The kind of cold that came from knowing exactly what people thought of you. My grandfather was a different person. Was he? The counselor leaned forward. Your Majesty, I mean no disrespect. But you've been absent for 3 years. You've made no effort to connect with your people, to understand their concerns, to reassure them that you're not. He stopped again. Not what? Elsa's voice was quiet. Say it. The counselor met her eyes. Not a danger to everyone around you. Silence fell over the table. Anna's chair scraped back. That's enough. Anna. Elsa started. No. Anna's voice was fierce. I've sat here for 3 years, listening to these men talk about you like you're a problem to be managed. Like you're not a person. Like you're not my sister. She turned to the counselor. Bishop, you've known Elsa since she was born. You held her at her christening. And now you sit there and imply she's dangerous because of something her grandfather did 50 years ago? The bishop's face reddened. Princess, I only meant... I know what you meant. Anna's hands were shaking, but her voice didn't waver. I know exactly what you meant. You meant that Elsa's power makes you uncomfortable. That you'd rather have a queen who fits neatly into your expectations than one who challenges them. That you prefer to keep running things yourselves while she hides in her room, because that's easier than actually dealing with who she is. Elsa stared at her sister. At this girl, this woman, who'd spent 3 years alone and had somehow become stronger for it. Is that true? She asked quietly. Is that what you want? The counselors exchanged glances. The bishop opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again. We want what's best for Arendelle, he said finally. As we always have. No. Naruto's voice cut through the tension like a blade. Everyone turned to look at him. He hadn't moved from his chair, hadn't raised his voice, but suddenly he was the most dangerous person in the room. That's not what you want. What you want is control. Power. The ability to make decisions without anyone questioning you. He stood slowly, deliberately. I've seen men like you before. In my village. In the council that ruled before I was born. They talked about what was best for everyone while making sure no one else had a voice. And who are you to judge us? The young counselor's voice was sharp. You're not even from this kingdom. You're a mercenary who appeared out of nowhere and somehow has the queen's ear. Naruto's expression didn't change. I'm someone who knows what it looks like when people in power are more interested in keeping power than using it well. He looked at Elsa. You asked me once why I stayed? This is why. Because these people. He gestured at the council. They've spent 3 years convincing you that you're the problem. That your power makes you dangerous. That the only way to protect anyone is to hide. He moved to stand beside her chair. Not touching. Just there. But you're not the problem. You never were. The problem is people who'd rather you be afraid than strong. Who'd rather you hide than lead. He met her eyes. You want to know what to do with your power? Start here. Start with them. Elsa looked at the counselors. At their carefully neutral expressions, their calculating eyes, their hands folded neatly on the table. 12 men who'd spent 3 years ruling in her name, making decisions she'd never approved, shaping a kingdom she'd never seen. She thought about what Naruto had said on the balcony. You start by showing up. I'm not going to hide anymore. Her voice was quiet, but it carried. I'm the Queen of Arendelle. I have been for 3 years, even if I haven't acted like it. That changes now. The bishop's eyes narrowed. Your Majesty, with respect, you have no experience in. I have no experience in a lot of things. Elsa stood. I have no experience trusting people. No experience letting anyone close. No experience being anything other than afraid. She paused. But I'm learning. And the first thing I'm learning is that a queen doesn't rule by committee. She rules with council, but the final decision is hers. She looked at each counselor in turn. Some met her eyes. Others looked away. Effective immediately, all major decisions come to me for approval. I'll be reviewing the policies enacted during my absence. Those that serve the kingdom will stand. Those that don't, she let the silence stretch, will be adjusted. The young counselor's face went red. You can't just. I can. Elsa's voice was ice. Literally, frost was forming on the table, creeping toward his hands. He pulled back sharply. I'm the queen. This is my kingdom. And I will not let it be ruled by men who see me as a problem to be managed. She turned and walked out before anyone could respond. Anna caught up with her in the hallway. Elsa! Elsa, wait! Elsa stopped but didn't turn. Her hands were shaking. The ice was still there, humming, waiting. She just challenged 12 of the most powerful men in the kingdom. Men who'd spent years building their influence. Men who would not take kindly to being overruled. That was. Anna paused, breathless. That was incredible. Elsa turned. It was stupid. They're going to fight me every step of the way. Probably. Anna grinned. But you stood up to them. You actually stood up to them. Do you know how long I've waited to see that? Elsa's eyes burned again. Anna, No. Anna held up a hand. Don't apologize. Don't explain. Just. She stepped forward and, before Elsa could move, wrapped her arms around her sister in a fierce hug. Elsa froze. The ice didn't move. Anna's arms tightened. I've wanted to do that for 13 years. She whispered. Just hold you. Tell you it was going to be okay. Be your sister. Slowly, hesitantly, Elsa's arms rose. She wrapped them around Anna's shoulders. Held on. The ice remained quiet. I'm sorry, Elsa breathed. For everything. For leaving. For not being there. For. Stop. Anna pulled back just enough to look at her. You're here now. That's what matters. She smiled, and it was like sunlight breaking through clouds. Besides, you brought home a cute boy who looks at you like you're the only person in the world. So really, you're already ahead. Elsa's face went hot. He does not, we're not. Sure. Anna's grin widened. Keep telling yourself that. From somewhere behind them, Naruto's voice drifted down the hallway. I can hear you, you know. Anna burst out laughing. Even Elsa felt her lips twitch. For the first time in years, the ice in her chest felt less like a prison and more like something else. Something she didn't have a name for yet. Something that felt almost like hope. The council meeting had consequences. By midday, word had spread through the castle. The queen had asserted herself. The queen had challenged the council. The queen had used her magic in front of witnesses, not to attack, but to make a point. Reactions were mixed. Some guards nodded approvingly. They'd seen Elsa protect Anna from Hans, had watched her stand firm against the threat. Others muttered about the old stories, about magic and madness and the king who nearly destroyed them all. Elsa heard it all. The whispers followed her through hallways, died when she entered rooms, resumed when she left. She pretended not to notice. Pretended the words didn't cut. Naruto found her in the library that evening, surrounded by ledgers and reports she was trying to understand. You're doing it again. Thinking too loud? She didn't look up. I'm aware. He moved to the table and sat across from her. That's not what I meant. He waited until she met his eyes. You're hearing what they say about you. And you're letting it become true? Elsa's jaw tightened. I'm not letting anything become anything. I'm being realistic. The people are afraid of me. The council is afraid of me. Even some of the guards are afraid of me. That's not something I can change with a speech or a moment of bravery. No, Naruto agreed. You change it with time. With consistency. With showing up every day and proving them wrong. He leaned forward. But you can't do that if you're hiding in here, reading reports, convincing yourself their fear is justified. I'm not hiding. Elsa stopped. Looked at the stacks of paper around her. At the comfortable chair. At the door she'd carefully closed behind her. You're hiding. Naruto's voice was gentle. It's okay. I do it too sometimes. Throw myself into work, into training, into anything that keeps me from having to face the hard stuff. He paused. But it doesn't work. The hard stuff is still there when you're done. Elsa was quiet for a long moment. Then, slowly, she closed the ledger in front of her. What do you suggest? Naruto smiled, a real smile, the kind that changed his whole face. Walk with me. They left the library together. The castle was quiet at this hour, most of the servants retired, only a few guards on patrol. Naruto led her through corridors she'd known her whole life but never really seen, past portraits of ancestors she'd never met, through rooms she'd never entered, down staircases that led to places she'd forgotten existed. Where are we going? She asked finally. The kitchens. Elsa stopped. The kitchens? Why? Because there's food. And because the kitchen staff are usually the first to know what people are really thinking. He looked back at her. You want to know what your kingdom thinks of you? Start there. The kitchens were warm and loud and absolutely not what Elsa had expected. A dozen people moved through the space, cooks and scullery maids and servers, cleaning up after the evening meal. They stopped when Elsa entered, their eyes going wide, their hands freezing mid-motion. Your Majesty. A large woman in a stained apron stepped forward, wiping her hands on her clothes. We weren't expecting. Can we get you something? Some tea, perhaps? A plate of... Actually. Elsa's voice came out steadier than she felt. I was hoping to talk. If you have a moment. The woman blinked. Talk? About. Elsa hesitated. About what it's like. Working here. Living in Arendelle. What people are saying. Silence. The kitchen staff exchanged glances. The woman's expression shifted from surprise to something more guarded. Your Majesty, I don't think. Please. The word came out before Elsa could stop it. I've been gone a long time. I don't know what my people need. What they're afraid of. What they hope for. She swallowed. I want to learn. But I can't do that if no one will talk to me. Another long moment. Then the woman's face softened, just slightly. Sit down, Your Majesty. She gestured to a rough wooden table in the corner. I'll make that tea. And we'll talk. They talked for 3 hours. Elsa learned about the fisherman whose daughter had married a merchant from Wesselton. About the baker whose son wanted to join the guard. About the woman who'd lost her husband in the storm last winter and couldn't afford to fix her roof. About the children who played in the square and the old men who gathered at the pub and the young women who dreamed of traveling to distant kingdoms. She learned about the fear, too. The stories that circulated about her grandfather, about the magic that had nearly destroyed them. The whispered warnings to stay away from the castle, from the queen, from anything touched by ice. The rumors that she'd frozen the fjord deliberately, to trap them, to control them. Each word was a small wound. But Elsa listened. Nodded. Asked questions. Didn't flinch. And when the kitchen staff finally fell silent, their cups empty, their faces uncertain, she did something she'd never done before. She told them the truth. About the accident when she was 8. About the years of isolation. About the fear that had driven her to the mountains, that had kept her away, that had made her believe she could never come home. About the men who tried to use her against Anna. About the stranger who'd saved her and shown her that maybe, just maybe, she could be more than her fear. She didn't mention the ice. Didn't need to. It was there, humming beneath her words, visible in the frost that crept across the table as she spoke. But she didn't try to hide it. Didn't try to control it. Just let it be. When she finished, the kitchen was silent. Then the woman, Greta, Elsa had learned her name, reached across the table and took her hand. Your Majesty, she said quietly. I think maybe we've all been afraid of the wrong things. The frost on the table began to recede. Elsa looked at Greta's hand covering hers. At the faces of the kitchen staff, some still uncertain, but others looked at her differently now. Like she was a person instead of a threat. Thank you, she whispered. For listening. Greta smiled. Thank you for talking? Naruto was waiting in the corridor when she emerged. How'd it go? Elsa leaned against the wall. Her legs were shaking. Her hands were shaking. Everything was shaking. I don't know, she admitted. But I think. She paused, searching for words. I think maybe it was a start. Naruto nodded. That's all anyone can ask for. They stood together in the quiet corridor, the warmth of the kitchen fading behind them. Somewhere in the castle, a clock struck midnight. Thank you, Elsa said quietly. For pushing me. For not letting me hide. You'd have figured it out eventually. Maybe. She turned to look at him. But eventually might have been too late. Something passed between them, a look, a moment, the kind of thing that could become something more if either of them was brave enough to let it. Neither spoke. But when Naruto reached out and took her hand, Elsa didn't pull away. And the ice, for once, was perfectly still.